Kadosh. So basically, this is going to be the first shiur of Bassar V Halav. Okay, this is going to be a new topic, Bassar V Halav. We're going to start Ilchot Bassar V Halav until the end of the Zman. It's not exactly the full 6 months because obviously I'm the first page. We're going to start the first page, right? We're not actually exactly going to be there because remember that it stops on Rosh Chodesh Nisan and we're going to have the break in the winter and this and that. Okay, fine. So now it says like this, right? The question is, are you allowed to have a cheeseburger?
Yes, of course.
Right? So you're going to tell me which cheese. Yeah, obviously. So we're going to speak about that. Are you allowed to come in and buy stocks in McDonald's?
Oh,
Yeah.
By what?
Stock. You know what stocks are? Baba Haki. No, you know what stocks are? Stocks.
Why? Because
Yeah, stocks.
Because c'est du manger. Stocks.
Yeah, so one thing, very good. So are you allowed to buy stocks in McDonald's? Right? This Mordechai has every single morning with the stocks going up and down. So he knows what stocks are. Yeah. But again, you've got that question. We've got another question. What happened if you mix your coffee with a fleshik spoon? So this happened. This is what Mr. Jordan Malka just told us tonight. He mixed his coffee with it wasn't the coffee. It was actually the opposite. No, you mix the milky spoon. He ate his pargiot with his milky fork, basically. So what happens now? What happens if you cut an onion with a knife? Very good. So we're going to speak about charif, ben yomo. You fried it on the other frying pan. What happens if milk is going to be spritz on the outside of a meaty pot? So the shechasir besari, ken vepitom poops, halach halav vehalach bechol makom. On the outside of a meaty pot. So all these questions are questions that we're going to come and we're going to understand. We're going to learn whether it's going to be the Shulchan Aruch starting from Simana 87, Pei Zayin, right? Paz, yeah, and onwards. So he says, but we're only going to learn the sifim which are relevant to our modern day kitchens. The Shulchan Aruch begins by discussing the provisions that are included in cooking, eating, and benefiting from milk and meat, and then the measures that Chazal take in order not to eat them together. And then it's going to speak about, right, halachot of whether it's dairy and meat products, v'chule v'chule. Okay, so we're going to start. Okay, זאת אומרת, כל ההלכות האלה, אנחנו חייבים ללמוד אותם, ממש, it's aleph bet. You don't know how many, it starts, and Bassar V Halav, and questions, right? Fine. I'll actually just mention to you, which one?
Gonna make your life much easier.
Much easier, 100%.
Calling you or asking the husband.
100%. It's true. The reason why I convinced them to learn this was to make my life easier. It's true. No,
It's like
yeah. Okay, fine. Right. So first, for example, today we're going to speak about a few different halachot. Number one, right? Imagine right now you go to Orlando. Yeah? אתה שומע? אתה הלכת לאורלנדו. כשהלכת לאורלנדו, או תיקח את זה. אתה רוצה? קח. יש חתיכה. טעים. So he says like this, you go to Orlando, and all of a sudden they only have one sink. Ken? Kior echad. Now what do? So you're going to have today meat and tomorrow milk. Now what happens is that you put the meat inside, and all of a sudden when you put the meat inside, right, it gets clogged up. So you're going to come and take boiling hot water, you're going to pour it down. Your daughter, she just came back from seminary, right? Hey, Papa, what's going on? Asur, Bassar V Halav. You're going to pour it down. You got the milk that was just there, and now you put the meat, and it's going down the sink, and Bassar V Halav in the sink. Yeah, is it a problem or not a problem? Or after a very, very, right, very terrible day, right? You're coming and you're going to do kvisa. You know what kvisa is? Shte kitchens. This guy. Okay. So imagine right now you're doing kvisa. You know what kvisa is? Some people, the men don't know what kvisa is. Kvisa is they're doing laundry, right? So when they're doing laundry, what happens is that the husband comes, he just takes the milky towels and the meaty towels, boom, throws it in the washing machine in order to wash them. So again, the daughter from the seminary, she comes and she says, give out. Yeah, she says, hey, what's going on? Papa. Arrête.
This is Taliban.
Yeah. Huh?
This is Taliban. I never think that. It's Taliban Allah.
Yeah. No, but maybe not washing machine. Maybe one after another. But we'll speak about it.
We have two washing machines. One Bassar.
Okay, very good. There you go. You have it there. Dishwasher also. We're going to speak about it. So again, all these things, we have to speak about. What's mutar, what's asur, yeah, all these things. By the way, you should know that there's a lot more questions what people realize, and many times the questions actually start, right? The questions are actually going to start from, for example, with maids. You don't know how many times a person has a cleaning lady, and they don't realize how many problems start, and only afterwards. So, for example, I still remember until today, right? The woman calls me up and she starts telling me, the maid, she switched that. She was making an egg for my daughter, and this and that. And I come and I say, 1 second, 1 second. I said, how is she making an egg for your daughter? She says, what's the problem? She opened up the egg and she put it on and she made the egg. I said, well, you're asking me about the utensils, about meat and milk, but anyway, it's bishul goy. So she's like, what? But it's an egg. I said, bishul goy. Right? Another case, somebody else calls me up and they're talking this and that. And then all of a sudden they say, I said, yeah, but you know that they can't, the pots. They go, no. Whatever she's going to cook kosher, but only for herself. I said, yeah, but even if she's cooking for herself, if she's using your pot, it's bishul goy. You don't know how many times people come
Some
and they
people
don't.
going to hotels and they don't. It's not kosher hotel, but they have what they call it? They cook for you, the fish and this and
it's a problem. Bishul goy. Again, you have a big problem. And people don't realize. But again, there's a lot of problems that we're going to speak about. So there's bishul goy issues. There's going to be, Bassar V Halav issues. So there's a lot of issues. Okay, let's go. Fine. So let's start. Okay. The microwave, you're going to the. Okay, fine. We'll speak about it. Let's start. Shemot. Okay, this is in Shemot. Oh. Yeah, in Shemot. It says this is going to be written 3 different times. Okay, in Shemot, Kav Gimel, which is going to be Parashat Mishpatim. Afterwards, Parashat Kitisa. And then afterwards in Devarim. Po. Yesh לך את זה? Whoever has it, whoever wants it. Yeah, so here you have 3 different times. It's written, Lo tevashel gedi b'halev imo. You're not allowed to cook the gedi, right? The gedi is a kid, right? Not the kids outside, right? It's also the kids outside, but a kid is a young goat. Aliyah. Lo tevashel gedi b'halev imo. You never finish a parasha with it, but it's always the aliyah. The aliyah, it's true. Parashat Mishpatim, Parashat Kitisa, and in Devarim in Re'eh. Okay? Fine. So you've got Lo tevashel gedi b'halev imo 3 different times. 3 fois. Yeah, that's what you said? Yeah? Okay. So 3 times. So it says in Shemot and 2 other places. By the way, you should know something incredible. Do you know there was a famous story, right? I have to add this in, so listen carefully. There was a famous story that happened with Chaim Kanievsky. There was a boy, right, that he was learning Torah. He was a bachur. And what happened was, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, right, he wasn't able to learn anymore. The learning wasn't getting into his mind. He was back, forth, back. The father didn't know what to do. Finally, the father comes and he says, I'm taking him to Chaim Kanievsky. He takes him to Chaim Kanievsky. And when he takes him to Chaim Kanievsky looks at him and he tells him, stop eating the meat and milk. The boy came, he just broke down crying. He says, okay, I promise you I'll never do it again, this and that. Fine. What happened? What was the story? This boy, he loved coffee, but not the dark coffee, Tunisian, Israeli, Turkish coffee. No, cafe latte. Yeah, cafe olet. Yeah, cafe ole. Cafe ole. So, cafe ole, that's what he wants. Now, what happens is, they just had meat. Remember that in Israel, they have meat for lunch. And that means the main meal is lunch. And supper is the derech hagav, not like here in America. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so what happened? Right after the meat, he wanted his coffee. So he used to have his coffee. So he used to have Bassar V Halav. It wasn't together in the same thing, but he used to have a meaty meal. And then he used to have his cafe au lait. He used to have his cafe con leche, right? He used to have his coffee with milk. So he was eating meat and milk. So they went afterwards and they told Chaim Kanievsky, but how did you know? He says, it was written all over his forehead. He said, what? He said, of course. There was a gedi on his forehead. The gedi is a kid, is a young goat. He saw on the forehead of the boy a young goat. So he already knew he was eating meat and milk. He saw it. It was written on his forehead. There was a gedi. He saw it. He knew he was eating minimum. Nachon. Some people, they put the gedi for. They put it over here. But okay, depends. Each person separately. Fine, let's continue. So the Gemara Mesechet Chulin. Right, this is going to be number 2. To be Shmael Tana. Lo tevashel v'chalev imo. Gimel pe'amim. 3 times. Echal yisur achila. Echal yisur anaa. Ve'echal yisur bishul. Meaning, why does it say it 3 times in the Torah, the same Avirah? Obviously, we have to learn something. So he currently says, you know what it learns? Very simple. Number 1, you're not allowed to eat meat and milk. Number 2, you're not allowed to cook meat and milk. And number 3, you're not allowed to benefit. Right? So again, cooking, right? You're not allowed to cook meat and milk. You're not allowed to cook, to eat, and to benefit. 3. All 3. You understood or not? Benefit, you're not allowed to benefit. So, for example, if I right now come and and that was the question to do with McDonald's. If I right now just came and I gave you a cheeseburger, right? Or to a client also, I'm not allowed to benefit from it. So, for example, which one? 1 minute, doctor. 1 minute, we'll get there. 1 minute, doctor. 1 second. So, one more time. What are we talking about? You have a cheeseburger, which means that it's cow's meat, right? That's why I said cow's meat, right? And cheese. And they cooked it together. It's a kosher meat. It's not kosher because it wasn't slaughtered, or maybe it was a terefa, but it's kosher meat. Right? We'll speak about that in a few minutes. That has a potential to be kosher. That's just like we're learning. Okay? So that's why I said cow's meat. Cow's meat, not horse. Right? You know there was a famous thing with Carrefour. Right? Carrefour in, I don't remember if it was in France. Carrefour. Right? That they were selling horse's meat instead of cow's meat. Yeah, you remember? I remember it also. I was in Gibraltar. I remember. It was very, very... They were selling it. They got caught. עשו הערמה, אבל הם היו מוכלים סוס במקום בשר, בהמה. No, I don't know what they did. Huh? Yeah, so now it's a problem. So I'll give you an example, right? This happens all the time. Thanksgiving. Can I buy my employees turkey? Non-kosher turkey, it's cheaper.
I know it's no. Why are you going to give going kosher turkey with?
Very good, Baba Haki. So if Baba Haki would have asked his rabbi beforehand, his rabbi would have told you yes.
Okay.
Yes.
You can give them
yes. But the way to do it, Baba Haki, you always have to ask the rabbi, because the rabbi always has very generous.
You go to Publix and you buy it.
No, you buy it and you send it to their house. You don't touch it. You don't get involved. Right? You come and you buy it. Now, why? I'll explain very why. Right? I'll explain very why. Maritain, exactly. That's the problem. Yeah, Maritain. But I'll explain why. There's a siman in Shulchan Aruch. You're not allowed to do business with non-kosher food. The reason why, no, wine for sure. Wine, forget about. Wine is bichlal, asur, yain nesef. Forget about wine. Even, for example, I'm going to come and sell non-kosher food. But I'm not going to eat it. Asur. Why? Maybe I'm going to eat it. But what happens if I'm not going to deal with it? What does it mean I'm not going to deal with it? I have nothing to do with it. It's nothing to do with me. So therefore, for example, I'm going to come and I'm going to give you a gift voucher to go to Publix to buy your non-kosher turkey, right? So I'm not doing business with non-kosher food. I'm not coming in. So therefore, I come and I'm going to buy you the thing. I don't need to buy you a kosher turkey. That's fine. But why turkey? Because turkey is, in essence, it's not meat and milk. I'm allowed to benefit more than turkey. A pig. You're allowed to give him a pig. Why? It's not a surbana. You're not allowed. You're allowed to benefit from pig. You're not allowed to benefit from meat and milk. So therefore, if you right now come and you have your right pig with milk, well, we're going to speak about it because it's tameh.
If you buy lunch for it.
So says now the halacha, right? Second. Okay, so we just brought down now that each one is teaching us something different. Gimel pe'amim, 1-4, cooking. You're not allowed to cook Bassar V Halav. Number 2, right? You're not allowed to eat Bassar V Halav. Number 3, you're not allowed to benefit. So the benefit is only by Bassar V Halav. That means even pig, I could benefit from pig. I cannot benefit from Bassar V Halav. That means Bassar V Halav is up here. Yeah, think about it. Mamash, up here. Right? Okay. We're going to speak about it. Next, Mishnah Chuli, number 3. The Mishnah says, Basar behema tehora, bechalav behema tehora, asur levashel vasur bana'ah. Basar behema tehora, bechalav behema tme'ah, basar behema tme'ah, bechalav behema tehora, mutar levashel, umutar bana'ah. So now this is what the doctor said beforehand. 1 second. What happens though if it's going to be pig's meat with kosher milk? Pig's meat with kosher milk or non-kosher milk, which means pig's milk. Of course, pig's milk. Donkey's milk, of course. Pig's milk, camel milk, exactly, camel milk. Pigs also, of course. Do you know that there was a famous machloket between Rav Moshe Feinstein and I forgot now the other one. A big Rabbi Chassidi, I forgot his name. Okay, a Mishnah Lachot. The big machloket was Rav Moshe Feinstein wanted to say that in America, you don't need Halav Yisrael, you can have Halav Stam. Now, what is Halav Stam? The fact that the government will give them such a knas, such a penalty, a fine, if they get caught. So therefore, what happens? You're allowed, no problem. It's kilu that you're watching a kilu, you know that it's kosher. That's what the Rav Moshe Feinstein said. Do you know that the Shud Mishnah Lachot, I think it was Mishnah Lachot, he came and he said, I don't understand you. Do you know what happened in I don't know, it was 1950, I don't remember exactly what year it was. What happened was is that there was a non-Jewish company that they were selling milk. And what they did is that they watered down the milk. They want to make more money. So they take the milk and they water it down. Now the problem is you have like the FDA that they come and they check the milk. Now, if they check it, they're going to realize it's watered down. You have a problem. So what do? They added a little bit of pig's milk. Because pig's milk is actually more expensive than thing. But the pig's milk gives it more of the nutrients and all those preservatives and the enzymes and everything that you need. So therefore, when they were checking the levels, it looked the same. So it means nobody's going to know that you watered down the milk, right? And then they came in. Nobody knows that. And they got caught. They said it was worth the penalty. Meaning they made so much more money, it was worth the penalty. So he was basically arguing with Rav Moshe Feinstein, saying, "What are you telling me? Because of a penalty, sometimes it's worth the penalty."
That was the beginning.
Yeah,
of the 80s.
that was the beginning. The beginning of the 80s. So imagine, right? So
That was with Velda Farms.
machine.
Velda Farms.
Okay, that's good. Okay, fine. But I'm just saying though that just to show you what it was. You understand? It was the milk farms. Okay, fine. So anyway, but here, so what are we teaching? One more time. Second, the Mishnah Chulin teaches the prohibition of cooking and eating and benefiting from meat and milk is only with a kid, which is a goat, in its mother's milk, but applies to any kosher animal with any kosher milk. So it has to be kosher with kosher. However, you may cook and benefit from meat from a non-kosher animal with kosher milk, or meat from a kosher animal with non-kosher animal milk. Okay, although the mixture is forbidden to eat because of the non-kosher component, there's no additional prohibition of eating, cooking, and benefiting from Bassar V Halav. Okay, fine. Lastly, he says, number 4. This is Rabbi Akiva. Okay, on the bottom of the page 1 in the notes, where it says like this, right? He says, Rabbi Akiva אומר, חייב העוף אין מן התורה, שנאמר לו, זה שם גדול חלב עמו, ג' פעמים, פרט לחייב לעוף ולבהמה טמאה. רבי יוסי גלילי אומר, נאמר לא תאכלו כל נבלה, ונאמר לו דבר שגדול חלב עמו, שאסור משום נבלה, אסור לבשל בשר עוף, שאסור משום נבלה, יכול יהיה אסור בחלב, תאמרו לא אומר חלב עמו, יצא עוף שאין לו חלב אם. So basically what we're happening now is coming out that חייב העוף is not מן התורה, it's only מדרבנן. And according to Rabbi Yossi Gilei, עוף, Rabbi Yossi Gilei says that off is also midrabanan, is also so, right? So he comes like this. What happens now with chicken? So chicken is not doraita, but that's what you just said now. It's basar off or chaya. Chaya is a wild animal, for example, a deer, right? Or wild animals. So if you have a kosher wild animal, right? So technically speaking, it's going to be drabanan or not. So look what it says here. Lastly, the Mishnah and Gemara and Chulin relates that according to Rabbi Akiva said, eating milk and chicken, right, or deer, together only comes to a rabbinic prohibition. Rabbi Yossi Gilei says that it's completely permitted. Mamash mutar legamre. You're allowed.
He's the only one saying that.
Yeah, Rabbi Yossi Gilei. The Tur paskins like Rabbi Akiva, obviously, and the Bet Yosef quotes the Rosh and the Rashba who also paskins the same way. The Bet Yosef also quotes the Rambam, who explained that according to Rabbi Akiva, the rabbinic prohibition applies only to eating chicken and milk, but cooking and benefiting is permitted. Which means like this. One more time. According to Rabbi Akiva, you're not allowed to have chicken and milk, but it's only the eating. Cooking is mutar. Cooking is mutar, and benefiting is mutar. According to halacha. One more time. According to Rabbi Yossi Gilei, bon appetit, you're allowed to eat it also. We don't pass it like that. We go like Rabbi Akiva, but according to Rabbi Akiva, you're only allowed asur achila, not anything else.
Chicken with milk.
Yeah, cook chicken milk.
So the
Yeah, but you give it to the goy.
we never.
You're allowed to. You're allowed to. There's no isur.
יש אנשים,
Of course, there's no isur. That's what we just said.
יוגורט, שווארמה.
No, not eating. Not eating. Asur to eat, permitted to cook and to benefit. So I could cook it and give it to my and give it to the goy. That you're allowed to. No. One second. We'll get to Maritain in a few minutes. 1 second. Yes. Remember, when you cook non-kosher, your pot becomes non-kosher as well. Always remember that. But no, just to remember. No, if you cook non-kosher, right? So therefore, you're not allowed to. You're not allowed to. He just said if you're going to give it to the neighbor, you're right. They're allowed to. But now, what happens with the pot also? The pan, the pot becomes non-kosher.
What is permitted? What?
Off to eat, even to eat. Remember, it's permitted everything because he says elo chalavim. The chicken doesn't have a chalavim. It doesn't have the milk, so there's no chalavim. Everything's mutar. It says lo tavashel gedi b'chalavimo. Not allowed to cook a gedi. Oh, big rabbi.
And why no one?
But we don't pass it.
Why?
No, because at the end of the day we have at the end of the day we follow psak, and this is how they paskin. They say no, this is halacha.
He's Tana, no?
One of the Tana, yeah, he's in the Mishnah. Mishnah. Here, check.
מסכת מגילה, I think.
חשוב ש...
Here it is. Dor Shlishi. And Dor Shlishi of the Tanaim. So this is between 3788 and 3948. Dor Shlishi, Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, Rabbi Yosef Gilileh, and Rabbi Tarfon. Over here. And this with Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Ishmael. There's Rabbi Akiva. So this is the second generation. This is the third generation of Tanaim. Okay? If you get no, I made one copy, but depends how much membership they pay, they get a free copy. If they pay the premium membership, they get it for free. Yeah? Fine, next. The Shulchan Aruch, Sif Aleph. He paskins? The premium membership. Give it to Laurent. He's right over there. Yeah? Shulchan Aruch in Sif Aleph. By the way, you should know, you don't know how much these things actually help out. Yes, on Shabbat, we use this chart. With the Damadishon, Noach when he was born, with the Mabul. This we used on Shabbat.
Can we make copies of these things?
So you're not allowed to because really, what's it called? You have to buy it. So actually, we actually bought it. Here we have all of them. We bought it. Right?
Where
we bought
did you
it.
buy that from?
In Israel, or if you don't, I could buy it here in New York. Huh? So again, I just photocopied just for the thing because I have it here. But technically speaking, to start, mass production, when you could buy it, it's better to buy it. It's very cheap. It was 15 shekels. It was $5.
How many?
No, for one, per paper.
15 shekel one?
I think it was 15 shekels.
No, it's not regular paper. It's
Yeah, no, it's a special piece.
You plastify it.
I'll buy it when I go next week.
Yeah, you have it here.
Are you going next month?
Here, Luach Hasidut. All the Hasidut. You've got this one. You've got the Midot and Nefach and all those things. You've got the Midot. You've got this Rishonim and Achronim.
That's the one.
כל אחד 15 or...
No, I don't remember how much it was. I don't even remember. Whatever it was, it wasn't expensive.
אפשר להשתין?
Yeah? Okay.
Judaica או לא?
Judaica. what you
Any
think?
Judaica.
אפשר
Any
להשתמש בזה
Judaica.
בבית? או?
No. Okay, next. Shulchan Aruch and Sifa Aleph Paskins. Like the Gemara above, right? That one is not allowed to cook, eat, or benefit from milk and meat. And the Rama adds that whenever there's a biblical prohibition of Bassar V Halav is not violated, you're allowed to benefit. So, 2 minutes. Matai says a Isur Doraita. When there's an Isur Doraita, you're not allowed to benefit. Asur Bana. If there's no Isur Doraita, you're allowed to benefit. Clear?
No, sorry. You were talking to me.
If there's no Isur Doraita, you're allowed to benefit. Isur Doraita equals Asur Bana. You're not allowed to benefit. Not Isur Doraita equals you're allowed to benefit.
Basically, chicken.
Chicken? No, there's much more than that. We'll speak about it. Because what's considered cooking? There's what's considered cooking.
No, he said we take benefit.
Yeah, but because if it's not cooked, so then it's mutar. So, for example, this is what he spoke about before. What happens right now if I came and I had the cheese pizza, and then I took the salami, pepperoni, whatever you want to call it, and I throw it on top?
זה meat.
Yeah, meat.
לא,
And I
אבל-
threw it on top.
לא, אבל
So
פפרוני
if it's
זה
not
זה מחדי.
cooked,
Yeah.
so therefore it could be a son isur doraita. So the question is that considered? No, if you put it in the oven, it's cooked. If it's already out of the oven, I take it out now, I throw it on top.
פפרוני,
Yeah, so now can I benefit? So again, if it's the isur doraita, you're not allowed to benefit. It's not isur doraita, it's not. But there has to be cooking, right? What's an afkamina? Anything which is not cooking, microwave, cooking in any other form, all these other types of forms of cooking. If it's not considered cooking, so there's no.
אין לו בעיה שתאכל, לא תאכל עם חזיר.
Yeah, so if you say that you're asur bana, you're not allowed to benefit, you're not allowed to do nothing. Right, guys, everyone, quickly. Yeah, one more time. So he comes and he says like this. He says, it is important to point out that there are many rabbinic prohibitions that we were added to prevent from eating meat and milk, right? Waiting between meat and milk, not eating meat and milk on the same table, right? He says over here, but biblically speaking, the prohibitions of eating and benefiting from Bassar V Halav are only if they were cooked together. If the meat and milk were not cooked together, you're allowed to benefit from them. So therefore, even though Chazal said you're not allowed to eat, so therefore selling cold salami and with a cheese sandwich, right, is permitted. Again, mitzad Bassar V Halav, there's no Bassar V Halav. One more time, I put salami, and then I come and I put cheese on top of the salami. It's not cooked. Mutar.
פניני.
Huh?
פניני.
Fine.
panini is not cooked. It's just a panini.
No.
Exactly. Take
Panini, toast.
salmon. Tuna. Because we're not allowed to
Yeah, but that's because it's
No,
sakana.
no,
The goy, you're allowed to benefit from that. You're allowed to benefit.
Yeah.
Remember, the only thing you're not allowed to benefit is basar v'chalav and yain nesech. You're allowed to benefit from fish and meat or from any other things. Okay, so you can't eat it, but you're allowed to benefit. Again, here we're talking about benefiting. Remember, here it's always benefiting. Okay? But eating is rabbinically prohibited. Okay? Next. Okay. In Siv Bet, right? Shulchan Aruch Paskins. Like the second Gemara, that the biblical prohibition applies to all kosher milk and cheese, and not just the kid with the mother's milk. And Siv Gimel Shulchan Aruch Paskins, like the second Gemara, that if the milk or meat are from non-kosher animals, or if the meat is chicken, there's no biblical prohibition to cook or benefit from it, though eating is forbidden. Okay? Fine. Summary. Everyone's with me? Summarize. Right? To summarize. Cooking meat and milk together violates a biblical prohibition, and it is prohibited to eat or derive benefit from it. This prohibition applies only when both the meat and the milk are from kosher animals. It doesn't mean that it's kosher, a kavanah, that it was done shechita, and that it was
No.
This means it's a kosher animal. It's a cow. It's a cow. Just like we were learning in Beki Malacha. We were just learning in Beki Malacha all the things that the sinews and everything, they have to come from kosher animal. Doesn't mean that it doesn't have to be nivelat trefa. It could be a nivelat trefa.
You can offer to a client temporary.
If it's a pig, of course you could offer it to a client. It's mutar bana, 100%. Okay. Yeah. Chicken and milk are only rabbinically prohibited to eat. There's no prohibition to cook them. It is prohibited to eat meat and milk even when it's not cooked together. And it's prohibited to eat chicken and milk that were cooked together, though you may benefit from the mixture of both cases. Again, in both these cases, whether it's going to be that it was cooked together, chicken and milk, or the meat and milk that was not cooked together, you're always allowed to benefit. You're not allowed to eat. You're never allowed to eat. So one more time. Bassar v'chalav tamid asur b'achila. You're never allowed to eat. Never. Doesn't matter if it was cold and cold. Never allowed to eat together. Right? That's always asur. But the benefiting is only if you have meat and milk, kosher animals, meat and milk cooked together, or chicken and cheese or milk, whatever it is, dairy, that was cooked together, you're still allowed to benefit from it. Yeah, you're allowed to benefit. Okay? Fine. Last, in the subsequent sections below, we're going to delve into the details of each prohibition and see the prohibitions are more common than we might expect. So let's start with cooking meat and milk. Okay. No, it's not working. Yeah? No, he says it's hot. Huh? No, but it's huh? You feel it?
אני מקבל את הכל פה.
Yeah.
Put it this way.
אתה רוצה לשבת פה לברכיים? אתה תקבל פה את הכל.
Sub? Okay. Fine. Number B, cooking meat and milk. As mentioned, there's a biblical prohibition to cook together meat and milk from kosher animals. Right? Gemara Masechet Sanhedrin, number 6. Right? So he comes and he says over here like this. Number 6. Amar vacha bered derav ika amar kalot vashem gedi derech bishul asra Torah. It has to be derech bishul. What does it mean derech bishul? This was I was explaining to Mordechai. Right? What does it mean derech bishul now? So it means the normal method of cooking. So it says like this. Shulchan Aruch and Sif Aleph explains that the word tivashel, to cook, teaches that only cooking meat and milk in normal way is prohibited. So now the question, what is derech bishul? What does it mean, cooking? So strictly speaking, cooking usually is with water, but with other prohibitions as well, such as cooking on Shabbat, right? For example, we know, or eating non-kosher foods, there's other forms of cooking. So for example, the Gemara speaks about maliach kiroteach, kavush kimvushal, pickling. Pickling is kavush kimvushal. It's like you're cooking. Or maliach, when you salt something, it's like roteach. Salting it's a form of heating it up. So therefore, if you soak kosher meat or non-kosher meat, right? He says over here, non-kosher wine or fat for 24 hours, the meat is prohibited. That's called pickling. Similarly, regarding Shabbat, cooking in a kli rishon or irui kli rishon, all these things are cooking. So are these the same thing or not? Or like, for example, microwave, right? There's microwaves. There's another cooking which is called MRE, meals ready to eat, which is basically with a chemical. They put a chemical. Some of them, by the way, they shake it. It causes a chemical reaction. And once it causes a chemical reaction, it starts heating up and it cooks the food, even without a microwave. They do this many times for soldiers and things like that. They have to be, so they have the regular, like the pack or whatever it is.
It's a bag.
Bag,
Break apart.
and all of a sudden the chemical reaction, boom, it heats it up. Now it's ready to eat. So is that considered cooking? All these things we have to understand. So to answer these questions, we have to understand what is in derech bishul. We're going to learn 5 halachot discussed in Achronim. We're then going to apply them to everything that we've learned relevant to practical applications. Number 1, salting and soaking. Salting, maliach, right? Melach, right? And soaking. Soaking is remucharis, to soak it inside.
Maliach
Right?
or El Maliach?
Yeah, so he says, Shach, Paskins, according to the Gemara Mesech Psachim, and the Shulchan Aruch Siman Tzadik Aleph Sifchet, salting or soaking milk and meat together is not cooking, and therefore you're allowed to benefit.
But the salt makes like a chemical effect of cooking.
Exactly. But he says that it's not considered cooking. That's not the normal way of cooking. No, that's what he says. So therefore, you're allowed to benefit. So for example, if I came and I put meat soaked in milk, and it was there for 2 days, I come and say, wow. Okay, so I'm not allowed to eat it, but I could sell it. Why? It's not considered cooking. Kavush, mushal, and everything they want, but it's not derech bishul. It's not derech bishul. I'm allowed to benefit. Sell it. No problem. Again, we're not talking about selling for thing, but meaning that if it happened to you, you could sell it.
You cannot sell it fried on the pan, but you can sell it if it's like meat.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what he said. But it all depends what's considered derech bishul. Number 2, frying. You know what frying is, yeah? With a frying pan. So he says frying, the patash. The patash is pitchet tshuva. The pitchet tshuva quotes a pri chadash, who paskins that frying meat in milk with a minimal amount of liquid is included in the biblical prohibition, and it's asur. But he also quotes a Madam Shif who says that it's not included, and therefore you're allowed to fry meat in milk and also benefit from it. He says it's machloket. You have a pri chadash says it's asur. Madam Shif says it's mutar. According to that, you're allowed to benefit from it. So if you fried your meat in milk, you fried it together, you're allowed to benefit. Instead of putting oil, you put milk. And you take meat. What? Why not? Yeah.
Fry,
Un po' de lait.
שמתם
Un po' de lait.
מים,
No. Any liquid, but with small, minimal liquid.
It's not cooking.
It's not cooking. Or fine, you know what? Better for you, Chaim. I fried it with minimal oil, meat with a piece of cheese, slice of cheese. That was frying. That's frying. That's going to be midrabanan. What does it mean midrabanan? It's not derech bishul. If it's not derech bishul, I'm allowed to benefit. But remember, it has to be bishul. Derech bishul is the Torah. The Torah says lo tevashel. Lo tevashel means it has to be the way of bishul.
תיקון זה לא...
לא, תיגון זה בסדר. זה מה שאומר. הוא מביא פרי חדש שאוסר, מה נמשיך שמתיר, בגלל זה מותר בנה.
אז ברביקיו שהוא... זה, הגריל.
No, grilling is the next one. The next one is grilling. Grilling, pouring, and placing in a kli rishon. Grill, ze esh. Right? Grilling is on ala esh. Or pouring and placing in a kli rishon. Now, the Akiva Eiger paskins that grilling, pouring from a kli rishon, and placing something cold into a hot kli rishon are included in doraita. Therefore, you're not allowed to benefit from the final product. However, the Aruch HaShulchan paskins that grilling and frying are not included in biblical prohibition, right? And the Yad Avram argues that irui is not considered derech bishul, and you may, right, pour hot milk on meat and even benefit from it. The maaseh, since it's a machloket, and everything has to do with regarding a biblical prohibition of cooking Bassar V Halav, the majority of the poskim paskin lechumra, right, for frying and grilling, right, and therefore an irui. However, those Shevet HaLevi and Yalkut Yosef paskin that if there's other reasons to be lenient, you could be lenient. So one more time, every one of these, one more time, the salting and soaking, nobody argued. They said it's mutar. Why? It's not mutar lechol, mutar leenot, to benefit, right? But the frying was a machloket. Pri chadash, manam shif. The grilling or pouring it, that's a machloket of a kiveger. And then you had the Aruch HaShulchan that was saying that grilling and frying are not included. So he says, okay, so what do you do now? Right? The Yad Avram said irui is mamash the least of everything. Remember, irui is I'm pouring, right, from a kli rishon onto something else. No, lav dafka the grill. Grilling or sliya or pouring, so there's irui, or lשים את זה בתוך כלי ראשון, שלושה דברים שונים. Right?
כאילו אתה שם בשר ואתה שם...
חלב חם על הבשר. Yeah, bli grill. Some. Yeah, sauce. So bediuk, a hot sauce or whatever it is. Right? So in all these three cases, so again, obviously it's asur le'echol. Obviously, we're not talking about le'echol. Le'echol, achila, you're always not allowed to eat. But are you allowed to benefit? So he comes and he says, Lemaaseh, since it's a machloket doraita, in a doraita, you have to be machmir. However, though, the Yalkut Yosef and Shevet HaLevi says, if there's a reason that you have to be lenient, for whatever reason, אתה צריך להקל בגלל זה או בגלל זה, so, okay, בגלל שזה מחלוקת, אתה יכול להקל, but לכתחילה, צריך להחמיר. That means לכתחילה, you're not allowed to benefit. Okay? So, for example, let's say the cheeseburger on a grill. That's a problem. It's grilling. Or even frying. Frying would be a problem. Right? Again, frying, grilling, and the kli rishon. To do the irui is also the same thing, but he says again, there's more, if you need to be lenient, fine. What about bishul achar bishul? This is an interesting one. I cooked the meat, and now I come and I heat up the meat with milk, but the meat is already cooked. So it's bishul achar bishul. You understand what happened? One more time. I cooked meat. The meat is that, and now I come and now I'm going to put butter, and now I'm going to mix it together. So he says, Rav Akiva quotes the Yisur V'Eteru Paskin that if one cooks meat and milk together, that were soaked for 24 hours, he violates the biblical prohibition of cooking meat and milk because soaking is not considered cooking. The Rav Akiva infers that it is only prohibited because it was first soaked and then it was cooked. But if it was first cooked and now you cook it again, it does not violate the Em Bishul Achar Bishul. There's no problem, right? If you look in the footnote, he says over there, but the Ashukal explains that cooking is forbidden because you're creating something that may not be eaten to benefit from. He says, but if it's already cooked, right? So you may not or benefit from it already. There's no prohibition of Bassar V Halav further cooking. So that's what he says. So even if the liquid was cooled down, he said, and then it was reheated, or it was first grilled and then cooked, there's no prohibition of Bassar V Halav, right? So look on the next page. That means basically right now here, if it was already heated up and now I'm reheating or I'm cooking again, it was already there. So therefore, you don't have the Yisur. The Khatam Sofer adds, right? We're on, right? The Khatam Sofer adds, page 4 on the top, that even if the meat and milk was a liquid that cooled off, there's no prohibition to reheat it. Because reheating liquid is considered a new form of cooking only to do with Shabbat. But to do with Bassar V Halav, there's no problem. And therefore, it should, you understood? That means, again, one more time, when we say that on Shabbat there's a problem of Bishul, by a liquid, it's only by Shabbat. But to do with Bassar V Halav, it's not considered. So therefore, even if I come and there's a liquid which is cold milk, and now I heat it up again. But if it was already cooked once, or pasteurized, we're going to speak about it. So therefore, there's no problem. So he says, however, considering Bassar V Halav, the flavors have already fused, so reheating is permitted. It should be pointed out that some poskim hold that there is bishul achar bishul, right, with dry pieces of meat and milk. See the Pri Megadim, because Yom HaShah, the Maaseh, most poskim are lenient. And again, you could be lenient. He says it should be pointed out the approach. Yeah, so he says it should be pointed out the approach of Em Bishul Achar Bishul by Bassar V Halav applies only if the meat and milk were cooked together. And then they cooled off. But if each one was cooked separately and then I cooked them together, it's a problem. So one more time. If they were already cooked together, and now I'm going to, but if it's cooked separately, individually, and now I put them together, it's going to be a problem. Okay?
No, they were individually, and then they were cooked together.
So that's a problem. Yeah. That's a problem. Okay? Number 5, there's going to be a final shita that we must learn before delving into the practical applications. The Kesef Mishneh is understanding the prohibition of cooking meat and milk. The Kesef Mishneh writes that the prohibition of cooking meat and milk is only to prevent you from eating it. In other words, it's a gader. It's a gate, right, to stop you. What seems to, right, it's a protection. So he says what seems to emerge from the Kesef Mishnah is that there's no concern that you might come to eat the food. You're allowed to cook it. So we're going to see that some people do not rely on it by itself, but they combine it, right? Everyone understood. So one more time, if I'm going to ask you, why are you not allowed to cook Bassar V Halav? So they're going to tell you you're not allowed to cook it in order not to eat it. So therefore, if I already know you're not going to eat it, maybe you're allowed to cook it. That's what they want to say. So again, even though we don't rely upon it lechatchila, maybe with other factors we will rely upon it. Maybe together. So to summarize, one more time, soaking and salting permitted. So you're allowed to soak or salt meat and milk, right? To enjoy for benefit, not to. Yeah. Because when you say enjoy, it sounds like you're bon appetit. You, no, not you, somebody else. To benefit. We are stringent to forbid grilling, frying, and even irui. So you're not allowed to grill, fry, or irui klirishon or klirishon. None of those. Irui is pouring, and klirishon is inside of a pot in the fire, right? Number 3, meat and milk that were cooked together once, maybe cooked again. So, for example, they already cooked them together, and bishul bishul, so you could cook it again.
But you cannot.
You're not allowed to eat. Never allowed to eat. No, but you're allowed to cook it again. Even you, the Jew.
Not talking about eating, but we cannot have benefit of cooking it.
Yeah, but since it was already done, so now if you're going to cook it again, there's no isur of cooking.
No, it's a meat and milk that were cooked together.
Exactly. So you could cook it again. There's no isur of cooking again.
But it was cooked again for the first time.
It was cooked together the first time.
You cannot.
You're not allowed to benefit. But now I'm going to ask you, what happens if you took this meat and milk and you cooked it again? Are you over now on the isur of bishul Bassar V Halav? Cooking meat and milk? The answer is no. There's no isur. Because it was already cooked.
But by you?
You. But you're not allowed to benefit from it. But if you cooked it again, you did not do another isur.
So let's say, okay, I want to enjoy it. I cook it. I cannot. I cook it another time. Now it's okay.
No. You're never allowed to enjoy it. One more time. Let's say you made an accident.
Okay.
You made an accident. B'li chavana, without an intention. You came in your butter and meat. Okay, fine. Were you over an isur doraita?
Yes.
Of which isur doraita?
Benefit.
No, not benefiting. A isur doraita of cooking meat and milk. Okay. Are you allowed to eat it? Obviously not. No. Are you allowed to benefit? No, because you cooked it. What happens now if your wife comes and she didn't know that, and she saw that there was meat that you covered because you wanted to throw it out, but you didn't know what to do? You were going to call the rabbi. You put it, and she comes and she puts it on the fire, and now she cooks it again. So you can say, "Oh, wow, Fatima, what did you do?"
Now you can benefit.
No, you're not allowed to benefit. But she was not over on another isur of cooking, because since you already cooked it and it was cooked together, and bishul bishul, there's no another isur of bishul. That means even though you cooked it a second time around, there's no extra isur of bishul.
Okay, so I did the first.
Yeah, you did the isur, but it was by accident. But now when she does it again, there's no.
Yes, earlier. Why you did it the first time? You say yes.
What do you mean? Because you did it the first time. Or even if you didn't do it the first time, let's say the goy did it the first time. The goy cooked the meat and milk, right? And then you came and you cooked it. You didn't do any isur because there's no bishul bishul. But again, it's only if they were cooked together. If they were cooked meat and then milk and then you put them together. Asur, doraita, bishul. That was what he said.
But you cannot benefit.
You can never, you cannot benefit. The Mishnah adds a prohibition of cooking is only unless you come to eat it. But if there's no chance you're going to eat it, again, it's going to be permitted.
I heard, happened to me. My son wanted.
Oh, we're almost done. Practical applications. Listen carefully. Pouring milk into the garbage. Can I pour milk into the garbage if I just put meat in the garbage? Very good. Why?
Because you're not benefiting.
Yeah, but maybe I'm cooking the meat that was there.
No, but you're throwing. That's a way of disposing it.
If there's leftover meat in the garbage, are you allowed to spill the leftover milk from your cereal on top of it? Maybe it's prohibited, or maybe it's permitted. So he says it's permitted. Why? Because kavush is not considered cooking. Meaning, even if it's going to stay there with the meat for 24 hours, it's not cooking. So it's okay. What about hot milk in the sink? So he says, if you have one sink, are you allowed to pour hot milk left over from your frother into the sink? Irui. Or are you allowed to come and pour hot water from a kettle into a sink that's clogged with beef, right? With beef fat and cheese particles. So if you have leftover coffee in your mug and it's still hot, are you allowed to pour it down the sink? At first glance, all of these cases would seem to be problematic, even if the meat and milk were already cooked, as we already learned, because it was cooked separately. Meaning you cook the meat, you cook the milk, but now when you put it in the sink together, they're cooking each other. So now what happens? So nevertheless, it seems that there's room to be lenient because the meat and milk cannot be eaten. Because since it's flushed down the drain, we can combine this leniency with the opinion that irui is not considered bishul. And indeed, that's what the Yakut Yosef paskins, that although some say that if you have one sink with meat and milk, you may not wash it down with hot water. Lemaseh, you're allowed to pour hot water from a kli rishon down the drain, right? He says, but he adds that when pouring the hot water into the sink from a kli rishon, it's best to add soap or pour the water on the side of the sink. So therefore, it doesn't go. Meaning that at the end of the day, this is what you're doing. You're always going to do it. Why? Because it's going to go bad, basically. So basically, since it's going down,
is a way of disposing it. That's not.
But the problem though is, well, that's only heter. The only heter is bishul. That's the question. Is it a bishul?
No, because it's
You take hot milk. You take hot milk.
That's the way to dispose.
Okay,
it.
but at the end of the day, that's what.
Just disposing
But
it.
you know,
Washing dairy and fleshik towels together. So, by the way, we just had the case of the pouring the hot water down the sink. So we asked that question. You remember? I told you guys. I asked the question. Right? You decided to go for a week, and all of a sudden you get a dida in Orlando in Kior Echad. Erev Echad, right? Arucha besarit, right? One night after a mini meal. Right, all of a sudden you got the salami stuck there in the how do you call it, in the sink. You want to put the mayim rotchim. All of a sudden, what are you going to do? So Yakut Yosef says you're allowed to. Why? Because based upon the Kesef Mishneh, that since basically he's saying that it's going to be that it's not derech bishul because it's going to be the entire purpose was to eat. You're not going to eat it, right? Why? You're not eating it. The entire thing was a gader. That's what you're using the Kesef Mishneh as a leniency. Okay, fine. Washing dairy and fleshy towels together. Meaty and milk towels. Are you allowed to wash a towel soaked with milk and meat, right? Basically in the washing machine. In essence, the hot water is cooking the meat and milk together. In many washing machines, detergents is added directly onto the clothing and the towels, and therefore it's going to be permitted. But in some washing machines, the detergent is only after the hot water. So the detergent inside. So it's already on the clothing. So then you say it's already 10 times gum. It's a bad taste. Right, but some of them you put it on the top, the detergent, and then it starts with the hot water. And only after the hot water starts coming, then it adds the soap. So if it adds the soap, it's only after the hot water already came.
sure.
But, so that's the question: is it bishul derech bishul? So are you allowed to? So Shevet HaKolati says no. A number of reasons there's no problem, including that the water usually contains more than 60 times the amount of meat and milk. So it's batel b'shishim. The detergent gives a bad taste, and we have the Kesef Mishneh. So that's why you no problem. Everyone understood? One more time. Batel b'shishim was there's 60 times water than the Bassar V Halav. You've got also that it's the detergent gives no gam, right? And then the third reason is going to be what? Kesef Mishneh. The entire isur to cook was in order that you shouldn't eat it. You're not going to eat it. You're going to eat the towel. No problem. Next, microwave. Is a microwave considered derech bishul? For example, your non-Jewish co-worker asks you to heat up a dish that contains both dairy and meat for him in a microwave. Can you do it? So as mentioned above, if the food is pre-cooked and you're just heating it up, it's permitted. And bishul bishul. The question is, what if your coworker has a meal of dairy and meat that is not pre-cooked and it gets cooked in the microwave? So is that considered derech bishul or not? So he says the answer depends on how to define derech bishul, and it's a machloka between the Eglet Tal and the Grot Moshe. Rav Moshe Feinstein. Which one? No. One more time. We're talking about cooking, and we're talking about can you cook in your microwave, right? Obviously, afterwards, you have to kosher the microwave. But are you allowed to cook the non-Jewish co-workers, how do you call this, food? Yeah? That's the question. So the Egleta writes that throughout Ilchot Shabbat, whenever a melacha is performed with shinui, the prohibition is a derabanan. So for example, if you carry something in an unusual manner, so again, it's going to be hotzah. Imata sita b'shinui, ze hotzah derabanan. The Gemara Masechet Shabbat says it's en derech bishul bekach. So the Egleta says it's not the way to cook. The cooking is performed with a shinui. Why is it completely permitted? It should at least be the rabbanan. So call shinui beilchot Shabbat. B'derech kol the rabbanan. It's not mutal lechatchila. So he answers, when you cook in the sun, the final product comes out differently than was cooked with the fire, and therefore it's completely permitted. But when other melachot such as carrying and all these other things do it, that is derech bishul. So therefore it's going to be prohibited. But Moshe Feinstein says derech bishul means the normal way of cooking. That's the way it is in the Mishkan. Therefore, if you heat up water, remove it from the fire, and add food, that's not normal cooking. So therefore, he says you're going to violate the biblical prohibition of cooking on Shabbat, since those are common methods of cooking. Today, when you cook in a microwave, so that's normal, right? So that's going to be derech bishul. So Lemaaseh, it comes out that the Shvut Yitzchak quoted of Eliashiv and Shevet HaLevi not to cook meat and milk in a microwave. That means they wanted to go like Moshe Feinstein, Shezenikra, Derech Bishul. That means it's cold cooking. Right? It's very, very important. By the way, you know when this halakha comes up? Let's say, for example, you have to cook for a chole on Shabbat. It's mutar lechatchila to cook for a chole on Shabbat. Right? But now you have a choice. I could use the oven, I could use a microwave. So it's better to use a microwave. Because if I use a microwave, according to some shitot, I'm not actually cooking. Because it's not derech bishul bekach. So it means, again, even though it's a machloket that we just said here, but since some shitot hold it's not derech bishul bekach, it's better to use the microwave than to use the oven or the stove.
זה לא אש.
Yeah, because that's the whole question. זה לא אש אמיתי וכולי וכולי.
אבל אתה
That's
פותח
a-
את הדלת,
you understand?
וזה-
So again, but at least, you know, we're going to do a quick summary.